want taken out of the consent agenda?
And I'll apologize too to the board for getting it so late to you on Saturday night. My time as of late has been taken up with the audit, which I actually got the last documents that they are requesting sent over today. And I don't have it on the agenda, so I'll just briefly talk to it. They want to do the exit audit this next week. I don't have a date yet. I think it's going to be Wednesday, but we don't know for sure. Once I have that, I'll send it out to the board. Any of the board is welcome to join the audit or join the exit audit. They'll basically be giving us our results.
Okay, so do we want to do a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Well, what we want to do first is go to public comment, and then we'll do the approval of the consent agenda.
Oh, okay. I see that.
Yeah. So
okay, public comment then.
Right. So I'm going to let Hank in right now, so he can come in and promote him as a panelist. And Hank's got 3 minutes to make a comment once he's in. Okay, Hank, can you hear us? I see your mic is muted.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we sure can. Thank you, Hank.
I turned the video on, but it went off again.
Yeah, we don't. Oh, there it is. There you are. Great.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just had a couple of quick questions. It looks like part of your process ahead of the meeting is a little bit different. It didn't look like you had the pre-registration anymore like used to be required in order to get the Zoom numbers.
That's right, Hank. What we did is change that to a join now. So
okay, oh, that's fine. And the abbreviated agenda, I didn't find it until just today, even though I looked daily for the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and also, Hank, that's been on me. We've been in the middle of a 3-year audit with the state.
Oh, okay.
And so
how soon did you post the detailed agenda in the archive documents section?
I did that today.
You did that today as well.
Yeah. So if you go to in the archives and go to the 2022 meeting packets,
right? All
of that is in there.
Okay. And does that go in at least 24 hours before the meeting, like agendas are usually supposed to?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It would. Like I said, I've just been so busy with the audit, but the audit's behind us now, so I don't have an excuse next month.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Welcome to the position. Mike long gone now, I guess. So I've been attending for quite a while. Mostly have been interested in the process followed for selecting projects that KPFD provides money for. So thank you very much. I'm all done.
You bet. Thanks, Hank, for attending tonight.
Thank you. And any more public comments? Okay, so now do we do a motion for the consent agenda, or do we have to go through any of it?
Nope, you don't. And the purpose of the consent agenda is to send it ahead of time to you, so you have time to take a look at it. The idea is that if any board member says, hey, I saw this in the consent agenda that was sent ahead, I'd like to pull it out and have a discussion on one particular item, then we pull it out of the consent agenda and we'll vote on it separately. So we can vote on everything else for approval for the consent agenda minus what we pull out. Or if none of the directors want to pull an item out of the consent agenda, then we just vote for approval to accept it as presented previously.
I would move approval of the consent agenda as proposed.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? No. All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye.
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 Any nays? Nope. Okay, so the consent agenda is approved.
Great. I'm going to skip from here. I'm going to go past all the consent agenda items. I put it in this packet as well when we present it, because if any of the board members wanted to pull something out, we would just go directly to it.
Okay, so now on to the South Kitsap Community Event Center progress report.
Correct. Mayor Tansu, you are on, sir.
I think you've got some slides for me, or do I need to bring those up? And
I got you covered.
you got me covered. Awesome. This is wonderful. So thank you for having me this evening. And the city greatly appreciates your partnership in this project and your funding, of course. And in December, we closed on the real estate for the purchase of the bank's property. And so we're excited about that. We've completed, and you'll see some slides here in a moment, the schematic design. So we know what the floor plan and the exterior of the building is going to look like. And we're negotiating the scope right now with Rice Fergus Miller for it's called the DD phase. And Russ, check me on this. I think it's called development design.
That's right.
So the mechanical and all of those electrical systems and all of that. So that's the next phase that we'll be advancing to. We've got a couple of stakeholder committee groups, and if you want to advance to the first slide there, Russ, the first is the building, which is the project we're partnering with you. And then we've got a second stakeholder group that involves the bank and the city and other community stakeholders. And we're working on the site development. So that's everything around the community center. So you see the community center on the top of the picture there, the rectangular box, the 7-Elevens to the left. The city has a marina pump station, that small box on the top right corner. We'll be breaking ground on that exists today. There's a tremendous amount of infrastructure that's under that parking lot now, and we're planning for a big public plaza and eliminating that road that exists there today. And creating a plaza between the bank's new headquarters, which is the building on the right. And other than a blob, that's about all we've had. We had a meeting Friday when this particular document was unveiled. We plan to change Bay Street dramatically in these plans. We have this area of Bay Street currently when we have high tides and the king tides and rain at the same time, can be underwater. And we know that with the sea level rise, that's only going to get worse. So the community center site is about 7 feet higher. So we don't really have a concern there, but it's rather inconvenient to have the road underwater a couple of times a year. So we're planning for raising that street 1.5 feet. That the city is funding that design process, and we intend to apply for a federal grant that we believe will compete very well for because of the economic development aspect of this, the sea level rise, and other considerations that probably we're estimating about a $3 million project for the roadway. That plaza between the bank and the big public plaza we're planning between the bank and the city, not the mixed use projects across the street. That isn't as far along as the bank and the city and the community event center are. The The plaza, we're intending on applying for RCO grants, which will pay for about 50% of the project. That's kind of the lay of the land and what we're planning for there. Another thing that we'll work, so a couple things we need to work on. We need some permit. This is a state highway in front of us. So we got to get the state's permission in everything that we do. And that little bulb out in the street there in front of the community center, we'd like to have, Russ, here right in front of the community center on the street side. You kind of see that right now it's the street itself. Bay Street is what I'm referring to, Russ.
Oh, right here.
Right here, yes. You see that little notch in there? We'd like to have a drop-off zone there. And this is current, which being in a curve, the state, it's a deviation. You can't, we could work without it, but we'd like to have it. So, can't get told no unless you ask. So we're proposing to drop the speed limit from 25 down to 20 miles an hour in this area, make this much more pedestrian friendly. And we're hopeful the state's going to work with us on that. On the north side or the top of the community center, you see that kind of patio, over left. There you go, right there. Okay, so that's the back side of the bank building right now. And right in front of the bank is a seawall. And at some point we want to do shoreline restoration, but we can only manage so many projects at once. And we're going to be funding the investigation to determine that seawall, if we take the bank building off of it, that it's not going to topple over in the first storm. Because what we'd like to do is just build a little promenade there until we do the sea level rise. But you can see our pedestrian path. This will connect to our pedestrian path along the waterfront. And it's going to be much more green than it is today, which is basically a sea of asphalt at this time. So Russ, if you could take us to the next picture, or the next slide. So there we go. Oh, back up one.
There we go.
No, should be one. Is that the second one?
This is the second one. Should be.
Okay, so this is the floor plan of the ground floor. It isn't much different than what I shared with you. You're going to see those protrusions at the top of the page. So this is the library space on the ground floor. The protrusions on the top are large decks that come off of the building, and that's probably the major difference what you saw from last time. We changed some circulation based on some feedback we got and restroom locations, but this is primarily the same. You see the orange box on the right hand side, and that's open to the top, and then there's a feature that lets natural light in from the top of the building. But this at this level is primarily is the library space. If we go to the next picture, this is the event space, and you can see those large outlooks or decks on the top. You come up the stairs, and we've got a large lobby space. We've got a large meeting room in the top right corner. We've got a little different than what we showed you last time at the bottom of the page, 3 different meeting rooms, for smaller meeting space. And then we've got, of course, the large banquet space at the top of the page. And you can see in a theater setting, we could host up to 280 people in that space with rounds, 100, the tables as is configured there, 120 people in that space. In the back left corner is that purple space. We're calling it the Light Lab. It's really that, a co-working space. I think those are become quite popular. And then we've got another meeting room called the study room there, just to the right of Russ's fingers. And one other addition, we've got these little along in the middle of the hallway there, the phone booths, and they're just there's some spaces where you're going to be. Somebody's got to take a phone call. You don't have to do it out there in the hallway. You can step into a little private booth to do that phone call. If you want to go to the next page, well, I think we get to some of the exterior looks. This is very different than what you saw before. And what we presented to you, the concepts we presented to you last time, got a bit of pushback from the city council and the community. And I'm very excited what we're seeing. This event center, I'm not sold on. We still have some work to do on that, and we've got a very powerful message on the other end. But this particular message there needs, in my opinion, needs to be something better than that. But this is how you're looking at it from the plaza. Probably standing over by the bank building right now, looking at the front entrance to the community center. And then this is the water side, and those the outdoor deck, and what's going to provide vistas to the water and mountain. This particular deck, we have to get DNR's approval. We're building the new building solely on the fee simple property and not the DNR leased land, with the exception of about a third of this deck. But we should be able to get DNR's permission, because they will, part of their mission is, to allow public access and opportunity to the shoreline. And I believe that we'll be able to get them to approve this particular. I think this is just a fabulous feature to be able to be up high like that and look out at the water and across the bay. If not, we'll just have to scale that particular protrusion back to stay within our property. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is as you're driving into town, this is what you'll see with community, and from the front of the building, the message is unity. And I think that's very powerful. And I don't know that we're going to be able to get something that good for the other end, but like I said, event center just doesn't wow me the way this does on this side. And you can see on the top of the building, that feature that it's got. Yeah, that's actually mechanical, but the other one, it's got windows on the other end of it, and that's a solar array up on top of the building. So we're hoping to generate much of our own power from a solar array on top of the building. And next slide. No, that's it. So that's 10,000 feet for where we're at today. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mayor, a quick question. You mentioned that there was some pushback from the city council. What were some of the issues that they had with the prior design?
Remember, we had some really funky colors. We had that Oculus that stuck up out the top, kind of like a tower out the top. Mm-hmm. And those are, this is much more I guess what the architects were trying to do, because they thought that's where we wanted to be, was kind of replicate some of the things we got going on downtown. And we heard loud and clear when we presented that's not the direction. We don't want to replicate what we have downtown. We want to take this someplace new and fresh. And this really kind of has a Northwest, look to it. Natural wood materials. It's probably some sort of laminate. Where in that the next phase will determine what those actual materials are. So it's just very different. It'll be a unique. Nothing like it downtown, and that's really the direction the council wanted us to go. So that's what the process was for.
Great. Thanks. Mayor, how comfortable are you with all your various funding sources? Do you see an end in sight, or you still have a big hole to fill?
I knew you were going to ask that question. I wasn't going to offer up that till you asked it. So thank you for the question. We know we have an $8 million funding need beyond your funding. At least we did when we started. And the agreement we have with the library is we're going to, you know, split that fundraising need, because they have different grant opportunities than we do. And they have a particular pot of dollars through the state, through state programs for funding libraries. So they feel pretty good about their opportunities to get those. And I'm, you know, based on, you know, I got $1 million for the property acquisition, which getting money for land is not the norm. So I've got a pretty good track record in raising money. I think realistically, I can get about $2 million of that from the legislature. Going to have to turn over some other stones for the rest of it. And the city's probably going to have to come up with that other couple $1 million. What I know today is inflation is running crazy. And our estimates at this time, we're probably have $2 million in cost escalation if we build it stick frame. And historically, stick frame and in a steel construction in our skeleton have been similar in cost. We would prefer a steel structure. It gives us fewer posts and a more open feel to the building. But that right now, based on steel prices, adds about $4 million to the project. We're going to have I feel it's time, and it's going to be probably sometime next month or in March. We're going to have a joint meeting with the library board and the city council together, because that's a big decision. If these, you know, I know we're 4 years out probably till we break ground on this, and I'm hopeful that steel prices are going to come more back in line with lumber prices, because we would prefer a steel structure, but that's a lot of money. And so we've got to, you know, both boards, I think, need to be able to weigh in on that. That's not a decision that I get to make or the architect gets to make. So for where we're at, I'm comfortable with what we've got going on. And, you know, I hope that we end up with a steel frame structure, though, is my goal.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so an easy audience. We have John sits on one of our steering committees. Actually, he's on both of them, and he's been a pleasure to have along. He has good questions and insight, and I hope he's regularly reporting back to you guys that he's meeting with us and involved in our process, because he's a valuable member.
Thanks for the kind words, sir.
Oh, I didn't see you arrived.
Yeah, technical difficulties. I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, so no more questions, and thank you, Mayor, unless anyone else has anything.
Okay, I'll be back in a few months and to give you another update.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. See you soon. Bye.
Okay, now on to new business, the Resolution and Policy Review Committee report.
Yeah, I'll speak to it, and Phil can speak to it as well. So we met for the first time. If you remember at our last meeting, Chairman Jagodowski had asked that we put together a resolution and policy committee review, and that committee is him, Director Havers, Director Morrissey, and myself, and then Mr. Lawler. And so we got together, and I had indexed each one of our resolutions from 2000 to current, and then also took the bylaws that we received and the addendums to those bylaws and included it in the index. So what we'll be doing going forward is at the index, as a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I will show you what that looks like. Okay, can you all see that? So This is the index, like I said, from 2000 to current. What I did is I created just a brief description or purpose of what that resolution was about. And then I'm starting to work on the links for it now. So you can see established KPFD. Click on that link. It's going to take you directly to that resolution. So this will be something that we'll have on the we'll have it on the OneDrive that each one of the directors can go to once we transition over into 365, which happens tomorrow. And I'll talk about that briefly. And then we're also going to put it into part of the archives and the records where the public can go in and they can pull up any one of these resolutions, any one of the bylaws or the amendments to it. Any questions with regard to, so anyway, going back to the committee, so we met for the first time, took a look at that index to see what that looks like, kind of talked about all the different aspects of can we make it, how easy can we make it available to the public? How easy can we make it available to the directors themselves? So Phil, is there anything else that I missed that you wanted to chime in on?
I think the only other thing is that you were going to add a column D there that was going to also include like a link to the specific minutes. That way you could cross-reference those, because one of the questions that came up is, there might have been one of these resolutions, but was it, what was the vote on it? Something with the reference to the minutes. So that's just going to be another maybe column on it that you can either basically cross-reference to it there.
Yes, that's exactly right. And thank you for saying that. That's right. There will be one more column here. And so if it is referenced directly tied into, each one of them is voted in by the board. So if there's reference to it, I'll tie that in to that specific section, and then you'll be able to not only click on the resolution, but you'll also be able to click onto the minutes that are associated with that. Now, John, I know you're on the committee, but any comment to this? I know you weren't able to attend, but any comment?
Not so far. I haven't had the time to digest it, and I didn't make the meeting last week. I apologize.
And we're just scratching the surface with this. I think that being able to make this as readily available to the board as well as to the public, and full transparency into what it is that we've done and what our history is, I think is extremely important. So, yeah, it's a good start. I think for us, I think Darren would agree that it's a good start. We've got still a ways to go with it. Brian, anything from you?
No, I think that was a great summary, and I think it's been a great exercise to go back and find and organize and create this display of resolutions, because I think up till the time you did this, we were relying on anyone's historical memory that we did something at some time in the past, and that's not the best way to keep yourself informed. So it's off to a great start, and I appreciate what you've done here so far.
Yeah, and Brian was speaking to some things about to be able to cross-reference. As I was doing this, as I was starting to pull up every individual resolution to read what it was about and to kind of put a summary into it, I discovered that we have some of those resolutions that do not have a signature on it. So, for example, this one in July of 2013, it was established the NKREC Facility Capital Project Fund number 96967. I have the resolution, but there's no signature, board signatures on it, nor is the seal on it. Now, I have the electronic version. So two things have to happen. Number one, I have to go back to the July 2013 meeting to see if it spoke to this resolution, because maybe it wasn't part of the resolution, maybe it wasn't part of the meeting, and therefore it was a draft of a resolution. But in going through this exercise, I discovered that there were some that I don't have signatures for. If I don't have them electronically, then that means I've got to dig to try to find it in paper form. So, which I've been cross-referencing a lot of. So that'll help us also with some of the making sure that all of our records are completed as they should. One of the things that we did talk about at the committee is that what happens if I can show, for example, this one resolution 07213 was discussed and passed in the board meeting associated when that resolution was discussed, but we just never got the signatures or the seal on it. Then we could do a single resolution to ratify each one of these that we do not have signatures for, as long as we can cross-reference them to minutes to say that they were approved by the board, if that makes sense. So we're not there yet, getting to that point yet. That's certainly the plan. Any other questions from me, directors?
Looks like a lot of work.
Yeah, I would agree. Thank you, Russ, for undertaking that. I know it's long overdue. Appreciate your efforts.
Absolutely. And what's great about it is it's been a real learning opportunity for me as well. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to put it together.
Hey, just a warning, my charger seems to have just kaputted on me. So if all of a sudden my screen goes black, it's because I've lost power. So just to let you know.
Okay, getting back to my shared screen here for the agenda. Do y'all see the agenda now, or are you still seeing the index?
I'm seeing you.
Or you're seeing me and nothing on the screen?
Yeah, I don't see anything just yet.
Are you just now seeing me, or are you seeing them?
No, I'm seeing the agenda now.
Okay, good. Let me go to full screen on it again. Okay, there we go. So next we have the project invoice and review report. And I didn't see Shannon jump in, but Cindy, I'm going to bring you in as a panelist.
Okay.
Oh, you already are a panelist.
Yeah, I think Shannon is still at an emergency phone call, unfortunately.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. You can certainly chime in as we move along on this.
Great.
So if you remember at the last board meeting, we did not approve any project vouchers. And the reason why was because I sat down with Shannon, I sat down with Cindy, and we discussed there just was not enough information to satisfy, knowing that the invoices that were submitted were actually invoices for what it was targeted to do, the work, what it was that we had budgeted for, and or what it was that we contributed to, and then what it was that they were budgeting for. So we felt it really, really important. We owe it to the public because it's their taxpayer dollars. We owe it to them for them to know where their money's going on each one of these projects. We owe it to ourselves as a public facilities district, and we owe it to anybody else that wants to know where the money is going to us. So we reached out to each one of the different cities. We reached out to the Port of Bremerton, City of Paulsboro, City of Port Orchard, and Kitsap County on our 4 projects. We reached out to their leads and we told them that you're not giving us enough information on these invoices and we need more. Because sometimes we would see just a simple invoice on it with just an amount, and that would be it. Now, if you remember looking at the consent agenda, when I sent that to you, that's all you did see. You'd see a blanket voucher for, say, the city of Bremerton, and then it had maybe one or two invoice amounts and then the total amount of that invoice. Well, that's because we've already done the work on it. So when we get to this portion of the report, then we can talk it in detail. And if you have questions about any one of those in particular, then we can do that. Okay. But in the process of doing this, and we had great dialogue, great reception from each one of the 4 project leads that say, we understand what it is you need. And boy, were they responsive back to getting back exactly what we needed. So what was presented in the consent agenda to the board was a full confidence in everything that we needed. And that not only comes from me, but of course that comes from a great deal from Barker Creek Consulting and Shannon and Cindy and what they did. So in other words, we're doing our homework ahead of time. So when it gets to you, you feel confident and know, okay, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I want to share with you real quick a spreadsheet. And can you all see this spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. So Cindy has gone to great lengths, and I've got to tell you, directors, we are so fortunate with the consultants that we have, with Brian as our attorney, with Cindy and Shannon, and all the great things they do at Barker Creek to keep each one of these invoices honest and the projects on track and everything that we need to do. So we're extremely fortunate to have the team that we have that's working with the directors and working with myself. So what Cindy has done is she has broken these up into each individual project. Up here at the top, we talked about in the ILA, the total amount that would be committed to each one of these projects. Then we talk about in, like, for example, here in 2020, only one invoice had come in the month of December, and that invoice was paid. And then you look at 2021 and the invoices that had come in and the total amount that was paid in 2021. And then you look in 2022, the invoices come in, and what's the total remaining? And that's nearly $400,000. Okay. Looking over at the PERC, these grant numbers are is how they call their invoices. So staying consistent with that. You can see in 2021, we paid nearly $121,000 on those invoices. You can see the total approved remaining from the original ILA is 148. Or no, I'm sorry, it's 95,769. Same thing with the Fort Gamble Fort Heritage Park, the Forest Heritage Park, what the original ILA was, what we spent in 2020, what's been spent in 2022, and an invoice, an outstanding invoice for approval this year, and then where the current balance is. Now, when we get over here to the Port of Bremerton, we have these broken up into 3 different phases. Phase 1, phase 2 balance, and then phase 3 commit. So we can see each one of these as the invoices come in during those particular phases and so forth. But when we look here along this column right here for 2021, you see that 6 invoices have been submitted. One in May, one in June, 2 in July, 1 in August, and 1 in September. None of those invoices have been paid. And the reason why was because we had stated earlier that we were going to spend $144,000 over a 10-year period of time for the full committal of $1.44 million to the project. So since we were keeping it to $144,000 per year, then we're lumping together invoice 1 and 2 that was back in May and June of this year, one for $86,340 and the other for $69,654, for a total to be paid in February of $155,994. Now that's more than the $144,000. But if we pay that, that just means they have less to be able to collect as they go throughout the years. So to extend that example, invoices 3 and 4, $62,174 and $52,336, we would pay that in February of next year for $114,599. So it's short of the $144,000. And then in 2024, we would do the $70,704, $58,991. That's at $128,694. And then if we end up approving 7 and 8, then we will lump those in, and we would pay all of that in 2024. And then in 2025 would be the final. That is an invoice that we just received here in January, and that would be $118,000. So we would have all of what we owed them by February of 2025 paid off. The reason why this is important is that the port needs to understand what we are agreeing to do. So they need to have the feeling, the confidence to know that this is what we are committing to do. So what this allows us to do is this allows us to stay within the yearly budget, but it also allows to reassure the port that this is our plan moving forward. So Erin's raised her hand. So Erin, go ahead and ask the question.
Well, I'm trying to remember exactly how the language was set, but I thought that the reason we did it for the $144,000 a year was if they incurred a whole lot more than that, we were still only doing 144. And I didn't look at it in terms of we're paying individual invoices. We're reimbursing individual invoices. Oops, sorry, I came back, but not really. But rather that we were reimbursing them the $1.4 million. So I'm wondering whether this was really the intent on it, or that we were just going to give them the 144 every February. Boom, 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 knowing that we'd never be overpaying them.
Right. Yeah. And since I wasn't there, other board members can speak to that.
Yeah. I think
John, I know knows about it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think if I recall right, Erin, the intent was because when we went into ILA, we have 10 years to pay that total amount.
Okay. So you're thinking it was more based on actual invoices. So if they had $600,000 worth of invoices in 1 year, we'd still only give them the 144.
Correct, because we didn't want to have to go out and bond right away to have the money, and we weren't sure whether we were going to have it because we want to put the projects that we funded ahead of them. That, I hate to use the term, first pigs to the trough, right? First one in, first one get paid. So, but they were asking for that up front. So we said, and I think if we have the ability, it's probably in our best interest. I don't know what Russ feels, but if we have the ability to pay it, let's just pay it. But we have that. If we don't have it, then we're only obligated for the $144,000 over the next 10 years.
So is that what our ILA says? Brian, you guys?
Yes.
And I'm with Erin on this. I don't remember it being tied to specific invoices. I thought we were just going to give them 144 annually.
Well, let me jump in here with two things. One, when Bremerton started spending the money that they're spending, that the PFD is going to reimburse them for it at some point, and at some point it's flexible. I'll come back to that in a minute. We started getting invoices even though there was no expectation of payment. And we had further communications with Bremerton, which was, why are you sending us these invoices? Because we're not obligated to pay you for some period of time. We can wait 10 years, or we can, do something annual. It's our choice. We've made no decision as to how and when we're going to reimburse you. And Bremerton's response was, no, we understand all of that, but we want to send you invoices now so that 10 years from now, and we send out a bunch of invoices and nobody will have any specific recollection of what they were, or if there's questions about why is the invoice from 2021 cover this and this and not something else, no one will have the data or the facts. And so again, the idea was they would invoice now currently, so there could be a current review, but it didn't mean that they were going to get paid those invoices once they were reviewed and approved. Does that make sense to people?
Yes.
Yeah, that. But what about the payment plan? Is it dealt with in the ILA that we're paying them the certain amount, 1/10 of it every year?
No, there's some flexibility. My recollection is there's some flexibility whether the PFD wants to pay as it goes or it wants to wait till year 10 and pay.
I don't remember that. Yeah.
I don't either. I thought we were paying $144 a year is what I thought we were doing.
Well, I think that's what we had semi-discussed, but I don't know that that's built into the contract.
I'm happy to look at the ILA tomorrow and send out an email.
Yeah, would you do that? That'd be handy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think that the reason why Shannon and I and Cindy had taken those invoices was just to kind of demonstrate, if you will, that if we paid these two invoices, it would equal this amount, right? And so in this case, $155,994. It's more than the $144,000 that we said. If the IRLA has some flexibility, then we would say, I'd make sure that we have the cash available, but say, okay, well, that's covering those two invoices, right? And then doing the same thing. So like in 2023, say, well, we're only going to give you $114,000 because we're covering these two invoices, right? But we can do it. Whatever the ILA says is what is the way that we need to do it, quite honestly. And if it means that we go back to the port and tell them, well, regardless of what you've submitted, we like having the invoices because we know the total amounts are going to be, but we're still only obligated and we're still only going to pay you $144,000, right? I think what they need to feel rest assured is that they're going to get that consistently over the years. Breaking it down like this, they would be done by 2015, which is ahead of the 10 years. I, as your executive director, work solely at the discretion of the board. And so when Brian brings back the ILA as a review, and we can talk about it, then whether I do a blanket voucher to pay them for $144 or $155,994, I'll do that based upon the further conversation.
Okay, yeah, so it'd be good to have that review. By the way, this is a fantastic spreadsheet to be able to look at. And the only other comment I have is the Port Orchard project, the $1 million that we transferred, I believe, in December,
right,
should be reflected on this.
I think, Russ, my other question on that was that total approved remaining balance at the bottom under the Port Orchard one. It says, is that 1.348 or one? It looks like 1,348.
Yeah, it's 1,348 based upon this $400,000 figure.
Oh, the 400. Okay, all right.
Right. So that's approved up to that point.
Got it.
And Aaron, you're exactly right. A total committal of $12,000 to the project in the ILA, but we do need to denote the $1 million. So I'll have Cindy put that on there. And then, Cindy, are you still with us?
Yep. Yeah, not a problem.
And we'll include it on there, which will take it off of this figure here. Like I said,
comment real quick. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of. On the PERC one, that one is going to change because the only place I could get my information is I had to go through and read all of the previous agenda and minutes to find out, because I didn't have anything else. I mean, and the archives wasn't always helpful. So I know that that remaining balance that I show here is more than what Carla shows, and she's working with me because I said I'm missing an invoice, but I can't find it anywhere in the Dropbox of what Walt had. So she's working with me. So that will change. So that right there, their remaining balance on this spreadsheet is higher. But I wanted to put what I have, and I know that she's going to work with me to get another invoice in, and I'm going to add that to it. I mean, my goal was I just wanted, for any reason, anyone could open this up and see where we're at, how I got there, and everything's transparent. And that was my goal with working with Russ, just so you guys all felt like, okay, well, I see where what's happening, and we're doing our due diligence of accounting for the money that's coming in and making sure it's spent and allocated to the scope of work that they're doing.
And moving forward, when we do our monthly financials, you'll see this report updated, right? Mm-hmm. You'll also see in the monthly financials, where we're at the end of the year. How does it reflect based upon these funds here to make sure that they mesh? For me, this is a ready look for us to be able to go, what have we committed to? What's been paid so far, and what's left over? And I think it's vitally important for us to be able to have this. And I also think, too, it gives us a confidence in knowing where our money's going. And when you go and approve a blanket voucher, you go, I understand what I just approved. Bill, you had your hand raised. Did you have another question?
No, it was just about that one column on the South Kitsap one. So I can lower hand. There we go.
Any other questions from the directors?
Not a question, but I'm going to echo Aaron's comments. Thank you. This is an amazing spreadsheet.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I agree. It is very, very easy to read. I like this.
Is it safe to say that it will be updated monthly or more frequently? How do you see the update cadence?
Actually, Tom, it'll be as frequent as we pay an invoice. Now, normally they're not going to be paid till the end of the month until after we've approved them anyway. So you'd be getting it monthly. But if things change, then it's a live document. So we're changing it as it happens. So how we change the process with regard to Barker Creek is that I get an invoice and all the supporting documentation. I send it to Cindy. Cindy and Shannon then take a look to make sure it has all the criteria we're asking for to take that invoice to the board for approval. Now, they're now each project is now also sending the same information to Cindy and Shannon as well. So they're duplicating efforts, but that's fine with us. That way, we know, and so Cindy and I have set up a Dropbox specific for our projects. So when I get an invoice, I put it in the Dropbox and I let Cindy know, or if Cindy gets an invoice, she'll say, hey, Russ, I just put this in the Dropbox. So in the Dropbox, we got 4 different folders. So I could go open up the FERC folder, for example, and I could see all the invoices that are listed right there and the amounts and so forth. So it is a living document. Any other questions? Let me go back to our agenda again. Can you all see the agenda again?
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay, how about now?
There we go.
Yep.
All right. So my report again, email migration to Office 365. Thank you all for responding to the email or multiple emails that came from Help Desk Cavalry. We are all set to go there. As a matter of fact, it's past 6 o'clock, but at 6 p.m., they were going to transition each one of our emails over from Exact Hosting to Microsoft 365. Now, what that means for you all is that means that You will get if you haven't gotten it already, you'll get an email with instructions. If you want to set up your email in Outlook, if you happen to use Outlook, if you want to set up your email in Outlook, here's the step-by-step, the steps that you need in order to be able to do that. So in other words, if you use Outlook for, say, any of your other work email, and you want to include PFD in that, so you go to one application, open it up, and be able to see your emails, and then you go to the KPFD, and you can see all of that. It'll provide you the opportunity to do that. If you don't use Outlook, you can go to office.com and you can log in there, and it will bring up the email system for you. And it'll be Outlook, but it's Outlook based on the web Outlook, not on the own individual app. So that's the first thing. The second thing with this migration is that we're going to have a OneDrive. And so each one of you will have your own. When you log into office.com, you not only will have access to your email, but you'll have access to our OneDrive. So I will have the resolutions and policy in one folder for you. I will have each one of the projects in one folder for you. Basically, everything that we have, you as a board will have the opportunity to go in and look at each one of those individual ones. So if you want to pull up an ILA and take a look at it, you can do that on the fly. Just any number of things that we've got. So instead of having to contact me and go, Russ, could you send me a copy of this? You could actually go to OneDrive and do that yourself. You can pull it up. Now, of course, you can always ask me, and I'll be more than happy to give you the information. But that's the intent of this entire migration that we're doing, to make it easier for you, to make all of our documents available to you, and just a smoother way of us being able to communicate. So any questions on that?
I reserve my right for questions until after I've migrated and messed it up.
Understand, John. I know that this one was this one in particular was near and dear to your heart.
It was. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
So we should be able to log into it tomorrow then?
That's right. And you'll be able to do it as soon as you get an email from Help Desk Calvary and give you the step-by-steps on what you need to do. The other thing, too, is working with Help Desk. If you guys can't get into it for whatever reason, you can put in a ticket, if you will, to Help Desk, or just let me know and I'll put a ticket in for you. It's nice. We're going to have everything under one roof, basically, guys. We're not having to go in one direction for this and one direction for that. Everything's under a single roof.
Sounds very nice. So no questions, and on to financial reports.
Like I said, there's no financial report to report out. We've been waiting on the county, and I'm not trying to poke a finger in the eye of the county, but they've been slow in being able to get the documents or the information that we need, financial information we need, in order to be able to close out the year. And that's what our intent was to do, is to close out the year here in January. But Susan and I are still waiting to get that information. The other thing too is that there's been some differences in information that Susan had collected throughout 2021, the information, and what I've been able to find to send to her. So we're trying to figure out where those discrepancies lie, and then being able to get those fixed so we balance the books in 2021. But she will be back in February, and we will do the end of the year report plus the February monthly.
So the county's not giving us the sales tax rebate report?
No, it's the
I don't think we've seen one in a couple months, have we?
No, we haven't. And that's the other part of it too. You know, they switched over to Workday, and so their reasoning has been that they're short-staffed, which I think everybody is, and that switching over to this new system, this Workday system, is taking them longer than they thought to make that transition. So no, I don't have a monthly to be able to present either during a financial report on that to see where we're at.
But we're getting the transfer of funds into that account, right?
We are getting the transfer of funds into the account, yes.
So
what's that?
We can go backwards and figure out what the income to us, to the board, not the board, to PFD was based on that, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, some of the things that, well, it's a small example, but it's still nonetheless, makes a difference about $1,218 in our books. The stipends, the board stipends that we pay. Let me ask you a question. Did you receive it in a whole dollar amount or was it taxed?
What was not taxed?
It was not taxed. It was a whole dollar, right? Well, they showed it as a use tax in there, but that's not accurate. It wouldn't go, there wouldn't be part of a use tax on there, but they reflected it. When I say they, the county reflected that as part of their use tax totals. So it didn't jive with what our books jive to. Now, county accounts payable is a great group. They're working really hard and they're trying to help me as much as they possibly can. So they're not burying their head in the sands and not pointing the finger at any way or any other direction. They're working as hard as they can. And I'm confident that we're going to get it all figured out. It's just right now, it's a bit cumbersome. It's a bit clumsy.
Yeah. If for some reason they still haven't been able to give you the sales tax numbers before our next meeting, would you just have Susan pull them out of the amounts that were transferred? Because, yeah, you're right, Pat. It's been a couple months, and I think the numbers have been good, but we don't even know that.
It's hard to tell until we.
It is.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, there may be some expectation from the county of me to go in and pull some of that information, right? The problem is they don't make it clear where you go pull that information. So they may think, well, we got Workday going, so Russ can go in and pull that information. We don't need to send it to them anymore. But if they do, I don't know where to go get that.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's not like you get a bank statement. Yeah.
No. And remember, I'm getting reports from both accounts payables, but also from the Treasury, and especially when it comes to the funds in the 977 and the debt service. That all comes from the Treasury office. So, but like I said, I'm confident that we will get through it. We'll survive it.
Okay, any questions on financials?
I don't know if it's related to financials or even if we were going to cover it in the next one, but how's the audit going?
You know, John, great question. I had addressed that at the beginning, and I may not have had you in as a panelist yet, so I apologize on that. Audit's going well. I sent them the last of the documents that they were looking for today. They want to do an exit audit with us, with the board, the board members that want to attend. We do not have to have a quorum for that. It's just open to the board members. And I believe that's going to be held next Wednesday. I'm waiting for confirmation from them. And then once I get the calendar invite, it'll be a Zoom meeting. Then I will send it out to you all so you can sit in as well. Everything on our end is done. It took an awful lot of digging, but I got everything in.
Excellent. Thank you. Sorry, I had technical difficulties at the front. I probably just missed it.
Pat, you muted.
Looks like we're done.
Well, I'm waiting for Pat to unmute himself. He's having a tough time. All right. Pat, just nod your head. Motion to adjourn.
So yeah, so I guess we're done then. So let's go ahead and adjourn. Everyone have a good night.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Russ.
Good meeting.
Yes, thanks, Russ.
Enjoy this on the wall. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.